we're
I got a
live.
fishing rod.
I think we're live. Excellent connection. Oh, I like that.
Oh. I
Let's
love it
just
when we
double
connect.
check. Looks like we're live. And indeed we are. Aw, but the text on this thumbnail got cut off because the thumbnail's too big. Or like it's too tall. So a different thumbnail we shall. Welcome to our live stream, everyone.
Dang it! Oh well, if I because that was such a fun thumbnail.
That was a fun thumbnail. What?
Yes, thumbnail.
Thank you. Thank you, Willie. Stop talking to me.
I've got to find Abigail.
I have to go find the love of my life.
Also, buy anything you catch. If it smells, it sells. So does that mean I could give this guy skunk and he'd buy it?
Probably.
I mean, that's a good theory. Why are you making me fish? I don't.
For those of you who are here, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to Skunk Talk.
Skunk Talk.
No. So as always, we'll be talking about writing advice and chatting with people in the chat about their stories and helping if we can. If you're watching the recording of this, you're welcome to join us in the future or join our Discord and get live writing advice all day long, all you want. But we'll be just kind of playing Farm Simulator. That's not what this game is called. Stardew Valley.
Really close. Very close.
Moon. Let's see. Moon Sparkle Gulch. That is the game.
Moon Sparkle Gulch.
It just rolls off the tongue. Just as a visual aid, so you at least have something to look at.
Yep.
But let me show you the thumbnail we were going to use because this is pretty great. I like it a lot. Which means I have to figure out how to.
What are you going to use instead?
I think I'll use the "if you thought prom was awkward, try writing music into your stories."
Yeah.
I need a map because I'm so close.
The awkward prom. Well, you know what? Let's see here. Have we recorded already on the podcast one of my prom stories, or was that Need for Weave that we did that on?
It could have been. Either way, feel free to share it again because your high school experiences are just bizarre enough that they need a good.
Yeah. So okay. So as we wait for more people to come on, because we do want to talk about writing music into your stories, and I think it'd be more fun to have more people on that conversation before we launch into it. Here's a story that has something to do with music and also with the budding thumbnail for this live stream. So my senior prom was bizarre on multiple levels.
Your high school experience was bizarre. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Yes. Yeah, my entire.
I assume that's how you say that name.
Huh? Tevin.
Damn it.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at names, so it wouldn't surprise me.
So for senior prom, a little bit of backstory to understand why on earth this is so weird. So the junior class was supposed to plan prom, but our class president, who had convinced the teacher over the student council and the student body government to not hold elections, essentially performed a coup and prevented the rest of us from ousting her from authority and power because no one liked her. She had gotten all of the cool people to vote for her. Boom, she then becomes student body president. It quickly becomes clear that she's a moron. No one likes her. And then so she gets rid of the ability to vote. There are no more elections for student body government. And once she has that kind of power, she then took all prom duties away from the junior class, relocated them to herself and to her friends, to change up prom because she did not like the way that prom had been done the year before. So she's like, no, I'm going to have prom my way, which meant that prom was taken from the University of Arizona, where they have a massive ballroom. I mean, this thing is huge. We lost our contract to the ballroom because she didn't want to renew it. And instead, we went on over to the Jewish Community Center up on the other side of town. And the Jewish Community Center, which is a nice, spiffy place, doesn't have a very large ballroom. Their ballroom is like an eighth of the size of the U of A's ballroom, maybe even smaller.
And you went to a big high school, right?
Yes, I went to a big high school. At prom, you would expect it. You would expect about half of the school to show up. So that's over 1,000 students.
Holy.
It's a lot of smelly teenagers to pack into one place.
That's like twice the size of my entire high school.
Yeah.
Wait, say the number again. How many people were there?
You're looking at least 1,000, if not more than 1,000 students showing up to prom alone.
Yeah, that's a handful.
It's a lot of students. So we have a ton of students there, a ton of students coming then to prom, but they're all going to the JCC, which, as I said, their ballroom is about the eighth of the size of anywhere between a sixth to the eighth of the size of the U of A ballroom. So it's going to be packed. But not only that, the JCC have been doing a memorial to the Holocaust. So as you're coming into the prom, you are forced to wait in line with pictures of the Holocaust around you everywhere. You cannot escape it. So people
just
are
really sets the mood, doesn't it?
So there you are. Awful. You're hearing all of this crazy music coming from the DJ in the ballroom, and there you are next to furnaces and piles of corpses. It's like,
oh my gosh.
It's like, why did we choose this place? We didn't choose it. You chose it. And she chose it because she wanted to rub it into the face of all the other Jews on campus that she was Jewish. Which, that's another story. Oh my gosh. So in any case, before me and my friends actually went there, we had, my friend Sterling had set up this whole thing with his parents. They had transformed their house and their backyard into this fairy tale restaurant. And it was like something out of a movie. They went 110%. It was gorgeous. We ate in this fairy tale tent kind of a thing, 3-course meal. And it was just a whole lot of fun. We spent about an hour and a half there. We then took pictures together as a group. We then went on out to the prom place. And then when we actually got in there, I almost immediately got decked by one of the guys on the football team who was just drunk. Just absolutely plastered. Right. And one of his buddies then comes, shoves him down. He's like, no punching people. And the guy just grunted. He didn't respond. He just grunted. He's like, "Grr, grr." He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, man. He took one too many drinks before we got here. Don't worry, I'm on it. And I'm just like, I'm leaving. So I take my date and we're all like, let's get out of here. So we then go to the other side of this packed ballroom. We had to shove people out of the way because it was so packed. Once again, nearly around 1,000 students crammed into one spot. So we make it then to
like sardines.
The other side of the ballroom where there was a space. People had backed away from the space. We come to find out why they had backed away from the space, because on this wall where we came to drop off our stuff before we tried to insert ourselves into the mosh pit was all of the people who had passed out from being drunk or being too high. And their friends had just taken them, dragged them on over, and just plopped them along this wall. So there was 8 or so people along this wall that were just passed out, with one person watching them. I remember asking, what happened to them? Oh, they're high and drunk. And I'm like, what the heck? And the teachers didn't do any. The teachers were just up front enjoying their drinks and not doing not chaperoning at all. So it was just free mayhem on the dance floor. The music was awful. Like, I don't even know what was being played. And it played, for all I know, this guy could have, like, been taking, like, stuff, like, he could have had, like the setup of the Blue Man Crew and just, like, been botching it as he's, like, smashing stuff with no rhyme or reason, and then, like, remixing his own sounds. And then, like, insert some, like, weird techno. So we left after about 45 minutes.
We did not have the same high school experience.
No, me neither.
Damn.
My high school experience consisted of me just being like, y'all are weird. I'm gonna go do my thing. Bye. that was more or less it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
How's it going in farmer land?
Okay, so I need a bigger backpack for storage, but I don't have enough monies. But I just farmed some parsnips and I sold them. And
so you can buy a pie for Abigail?
No, so I can get a backpack so I can have more things. But I am going
You can
to
hold
go
more
to the
pies for
blacksmith.
Abigail?
Yes. I'm going to the blacksmith so he can break my geode. And then we'll see what we get from there. See what we get from that pupper. Yeah. I need to see what else Abigail likes.
Maybe so she likes geodes. She likes pies, geodes, long walks along the beach.
Quick Google break. Abigail.
I'm already on it.
Okay, Valley.
Cool. Wiki Abigail. Hey, I have it in my search history. Even better.
From 2 weeks ago.
I'm usually against looking up guides for video games because I want to figure them out as I go. But Abigail deserves the best.
She deserves the best. The world. I have no idea.
Abigail deserves the best. She deserves you.
I wouldn't say I'm the best, but
what's this? The best gifts are she likes amethyst, banana pudding, blackberry cobbler, chocolate cake, puffer fish, pumpkins, and spicy eel.
Okay.
Puffer fish. Spicy eel. You know, after watching an episode of the Great British Baking Show, and they had to like make a dish with eel, I always thought they were all praising how good the eel tasted, and I always thought that eel was going to be like one of those bottom feeder fish tastes where it's just like it's nasty.
Nah, it's pretty good.
There's just a lot of it, so people go and eat it. But like, apparently, it's good.
I've only had eel in sushi.
Yeah, same
here.
If
I do not stop watering doors instead of opening them, I'm going to die.
You're going to throw up.
I will throw. Hello. Abysmal. Not a single piece in the entire. He's like a Cowboy Blathers.
Cowboy Blathers.
Gunther.
Like a human cowboy.
His name is Gunther, which makes it all the better.
It is.
Anyway, so while you chat with Gunther, shall we actually get started today?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, let's get started. We're nearly 15 minutes in, and let's finally talk about our topic.
That's par for the course with us.
All right. So our very first topic for the night is we want to talk about writing music into your story. And I don't know about you guys, but I have at least a couple of different places in my own stories where like I have music as a part of the setting, whether it be like there's a party, or in one story where it's very magical, it's like let me set the romantic mood by suddenly creating this song right here. It's like suddenly there's music, and I enjoy a good scene when I like watch a movie or watch a show that has great ambiance. Like the music is just right. And it's one of those things that you want to try to capture in your writing. But to be frank, it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah. I think here's just kind of like the general gist of my opinions on this matter is that the more like sensory information that you can give to the readers. I mean, there's a point where, becomes overloaded, but like the more sensory information you can give to the readers, the better. Right. I feel like especially we rely so much on sight when we write. That was a good rhyme. But like there's so much more to the world around us than just seeing.
Right.
And we rely a lot on dialogue as well, but there's a lot more to sound than just dialogue, and so you can incorporate music as a good way to like kind of create some ambiance, to create some atmosphere, some air around your story. But I think that you have to be very tastefully with it, like, yeah, because it's very easy to like have try and insert something and have it be completely tone deaf, and that's the last thing you want to do when you're trying to make ambiance. Like, yeah.
Well, I have a question. When you're talking about, I'm having a stroke. When you're talking about music, like, are you talking like modern, like putting it in scenes? Are you talking about like modern music? Like, oh, if you're writing a party scene and it's like, and then I can't think of any like popular songs because apparently I'm 1,000 years old.
Oh, I want to
Holla
dance
Back Girl
with
comes
somebody.
Yeah. Say Holla Back Girl from Gwen Stefani comes on. Like,
Yeah.
are you talking about like writing that in a scene? Because I feel like there are very different aspects on how to write music into, because especially when it comes to modern things in a modern setting, which like only a very few of my stories are modern. Like, that's really hard to do without it coming off as cringy and very like fan fiction-y.
Yes,
exactly.
And that's some of the stuff that I actually wanted to talk about with you guys, because the thing is that there are people who do want to actually have a specific song within their story, like one that's probably more relevant, more pop culture-y, whereas then other people might be thinking about, hey, like I'm just thinking about what kind of music that I could describe that would fit the scene very well. Or in some cases, maybe you're like Tolkien and you're like, I'm going to have characters just completely come up with something out of the blue. Like I'm going to write my own song, like I did a couple weeks back with Ducky Ducky, wooden and plucky.
Oh yeah. But that was the thing about that though, is that wasn't in a story, that was in D&D.
That was in D&D, but it's the same kind of concept right there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it was for D&D, but my character wrote it for the fan fiction of the campaign that he writes.
It's very meta, and I love it so much. It's probably my favorite thing. Eventually, maybe one day, I have all of the recordings of this D&D campaign. Maybe one day we will post them.
Hello. How to do this.
And what Michelle says is absolutely 100% true. That is one of the things that I wanted to bring up, is the fact that she says, also some songs will date your work and will be a product of its time and not something that can be timeless.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. And I feel like when you try and say, you're at a dance party or something and you're like, oh, and then Holla Back Girl, like by Gwen Stefani comes on, that instantly dates your music, and that kind of forces the reader into whatever like atmosphere, like it forces the reader to like think of that song. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't leave any interpretation, and that's part of what's fun about reading, is having that interpretation. And so I personally feel like you probably shouldn't like actually name songs in your story. I mean, there are instances in which you can. I'm sure Lars is going to share his instance here in a moment, but I feel like there has to be a very specific reason why you're naming a song Otherwise, it's going to feel very out of place, and it's going to date your story immediately.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, unless it's something timeless. Like, I remember in high school, I read a Pierre, you better get your ass back to the front desk so I can sell this fish for your daughter. I remember reading a book where the main character was like a huge fan of the Beatles, and she like collected their vinyl records. And that was a big part of the story itself. And so I feel like things like that is a good example because, you know, she would talk about specific albums and specific songs, but you can't easily do that with most songs, you know? It's like, they're the Beatles. It's easy to do that with a band like the Beatles. But I feel like it really depends. You know, it's hard to do that overall.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you make a good point. Like, you know, in 20 years, is someone gonna know the random song that you just inserted in the scene, you know? So.
And like a good example is this, like you can even think of like certain groups that you might be like, yeah, like I mean they're popular and they lasted for a while, or they had like a great like one hit wonder. But like while I might say, for instance, hey, like if I were to say like the Spice Girls was playing in the background, like I just mentioned that in a story, like someone walks into a room and Spice Girls is playing, like I could leave I mean, I can leave it just like that and just say like music from the Spice Girls is playing, and then leave it up to people to be like, okay, I either know that or I don't. If they do know it, then they can then insert their own song in there and just kind of like groove to it while they're reading the scene. Right. But if I choose one of their lesser known songs and say such and such was being played by Spice Girls was playing as I entered into the room, someone doesn't know it. It's one of those things that for a brief moment takes them out of the story.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and why am I fishing? And you have to ask yourself, does being specific with a song add anything? You know, like, does it give more to the scene?
Right.
Does it show your readers more? Or do they get the same vibe from just being like, they were playing pop music was blaring really loudly on the speakers, you know, like
exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think like an example. So in my story, I have a scene in which these two characters are like throughout the story, you kind of see their relationship grow and flourish. And I have a scene in which this certain character is like, it is the day that he is being coronated for, you know, king. And he kind of like pulls the main character aside, and you know they like kind of dart into this room to kind of get away from like the aristocrats around, right? And you know, inside this room, there's a piano player like practicing the music for the ball later that night, right? And so they like kind of dart into this room and they're like chatting, and then like the piano player is just kind of setting this tone. And like I don't actually say like, oh, you know, the music went from an high F and chromatically scaled down to an A, and you know, like I'm not getting super involved with the music, but I am saying like, oh, the music started to kind of have a swing to it and a beat, and we kind of found ourselves slowly bobbing in place, which then led to, you know, something a little bit more active, you know, like which led to more dancing, you know. But at that point, I'm not saying like, I'm letting the interpretation of that music up to the reader. And I feel like that's yeah, and I feel like that's how you should use music. If Scott were here, he was telling us the other night about there's a Seanan McGuire book where it basically says, hey, go to this site and listen to this playlist while you read this book. And I haven't read that book. I haven't listened to the playlist, so I don't know how it worked out. But the one thing that I would like that kind of makes me hesitant for something like that within music, because that's another option. You could be like, go listen to, this is popular in fan fictions I've seen where it's like, you know, there's a link to a YouTube video and and it's like, go listen to this song while you read this chapter. And it's like, in those instances, number one, like, yeah, it takes you out of the story, because not only do you have to take a break from the story to go find this song and yada, 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 but then, like,
the music might not fit for you.
Yeah, exactly. It might not fit the situation for you. Right.
Well, that's kind of like certain web comics I read. They'll have like instrumental music playing in some chapters to like set the mood, but honestly I find it more distracting than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm the same way. Like, I like to listen to music when I write, but not when I read.
Right.
And so I feel like I think you could find a middle ground, because the problem is nobody reads at the same pace. And so if you're trying to do like a listen to this song in chapter 1 and listen to this song in chapter 2 and this song in chapter 3, you know, like, they're not going to match up for everybody. And, you know, some people aren't going to, you know, and that's, I don't know, that might just be because I'm dyslexic and I'm such a slow reader to begin with. But, you know, like, that's something to keep in mind.
It's also a personal preference thing too, though.
Yeah.
And Nate, I want to put a quick pin to that, because I quickly want to actually address Kylie's question right here.
Oh, yes,
if
please
you put
do.
Songs that you made up in your story, do you necessarily have to name it, or can you simply have the lyrics of it there? You can just simply have the lyrics. I love how in The Lord of the Rings, when you read the trilogy, there are so many songs and poems, but not all of them are immediately named or even have a name.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, like Tolkien, because Tolkien is just a sucker for detail. Almost everything that he actually wrote has a name, but it's not like, and here I, Bilbo Baggins, have composed The Road Goes Ever On and On. No, he just sings the song.
And here's Wonderwall.
Yeah. And he just sings it, and that's totally fine. Like, you can just have the lyrics and just let the characters and let your audience enjoy what you've written.
Here's the thought I just had along with that. If you tie it into like the real world, if you say, you know, this is a song that you've made up for your world and it's something commonly known, that would be like you're at a Christmas party and someone just starts playing on the piano and they start singing Jingle Bells. Like, 9 times out of 10, you don't need to announce, I'm going to start singing Jingle Bells. Like, people know once you start singing. So I feel like it's actually more realistic.
Play Ding Dong.
Yeah, like, it's just more realistic to just start singing the song rather than announce it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and I think another thing is, like, if you're gonna put lyrics in your song, I think that it needs to fit like the atmosphere of the current scene. Because I remember, you know, I had wrote a song, because I dabble with music a little bit. Like, I enjoy making music just for fun. It's not good music, but it's fun. Like, I enjoy doing it. So even if it's terrible, it's still fun. But like, I remember I wrote a song and I was like, oh, I really want to put this song in my story.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt so forced. And that's something now that I realize, I was like, yeah, no, I'm glad I killed that darling, because my word, did that feel so awkward and out of place. And so I think if you're going to be putting lyrics, like, make sure that it fits like the tone of the scene. I think actually a good example of this is Harry Potter in, I think it's the 6th book. I think it's the 6th book. Basically, like, you know, Ron is joining the Quidditch team, and, you know, he's getting like teased, and, you know,
Weasley is our king.
Yeah, Weasley is our king. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, you know, the whole story is like, every time you hear this chanting, it's like, oh boy, like, Ron's messed up again. But then, like, the last time you hear it, it's like, Weasley is our king, and that's a good thing, because, you know, he won the day. Like, he won the Quidditch game for them. And so it's like, oh, this chanting that has been bad this whole time is now a good thing. And like, and the chanting is very like bombastic. It's very celebratory, just like the scene itself. And so it's like, there's instances in which it works extraordinarily well. But there's also instances in which it can feel very forced. And so it's just something you have to play by ear. And it's something you just, listen to feedback on, I think.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to feedback on that one.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I also want to say, because I said I was going to put a pin. I was putting a pin in what you were saying earlier, Nate, about like the pacing, because the pacing is one that is really that is really crucial right here. Now, this is something. Man, I'm going to let me just address this one thing because sorry, I suddenly realized there are like 3 things I should say with this. If you are going to use the lyrics for a song, whether they are lyrics to an already written song or one that you yourself have come up with, and like let's say that you want to do something with your scene that like what you see in a show or in a movie where you have a character's actions or character's dialogue match up with the lyrics of a song, you have to make sure that it actually does meet the speed of the song that is going on. So like let's say so if you have some very fast moving song where the lyrics are just coming at you a mile a minute and you want to have something happen, you need to make sure that you actually time it, because like let's say you then put like 2 or 3 paragraphs right in the middle of a very fast paced song, it's definitely going to feel off. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and if you have a super long conversation in the middle of, your prom dance, like, and it's like maybe a slow song comes on, you can't have an entire chapter of conversation and only have one song playing the whole time,
Exactly. It needs to flow. It needs to flow well enough. And that does lend itself to a certain problem, because then it can come across as clunky unless you're willing to just write like pages and pages of dialogue, like Ernest Hemingway, for instance, like in his book A Farewell to Arms, where there's like 2 pages of just constant talking. Maybe you could get away with it then, but it's that I don't know how many people would actually enjoy that right there, because then it's more about the dialogue and the music really is just an absolute afterthought. And if it comes on in, it might come across as a little bit forced or annoying.
Yeah. I think kind of going back to like the Sean and McGuire thing, where like he had a playlist that you were supposed to listen to while you read the book. I think if you like absolutely had to, like if that's something that you're like, no, this needs to be in my story because it's a crucial part of it, I feel like what would be an acceptable compromise would be something like putting the playlist on shuffle and then just having that play in the background, or like, because there's a Alexandria Streletsky album that I absolutely adore. And like, that's what I listened to while I was writing one of my stories, like most of the time, right? I've probably listened to that album like 100 times at this point, but that's besides the point. But it's like, if I were to like say, okay, listen to this song at this point from that album, and that like, I don't feel like, I feel like that pulled you out of the moment. But if you absolutely had to incorporate music in some way, I would recommend just doing like a shuffle playlist of some sort. So then it's like, here's the atmosphere I'm going for in these songs. But it doesn't necessarily match up like one song to each scene, because then, you get into the pacing issues. That's, like I said, that's an absolute like, compromise, but I still stand by that you should, like, it might not be the best move, except for in extreme circumstances.
Yeah. What are you going to say, Camille?
I'm trying to think. Oh, I have like a bunch of playlists for specific stories, kind of for that same thing of like, this is the vibe of the story, and and like certain songs remind me of certain scenes, and so I just have like that playlist there as a whole thing, but it's definitely like not a play-by-play.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a very different, like I feel like it's 2 totally different conversations of being like having music play while you are
Yeah.
writing and writing music.
Yes,
Exactly.
Into your books.
they're two different ones, and this brings me actually to one of the things I said, like, I need to address, because I looked it up. I did a little bit of extra research in preparation for this live stream, and the music industry, for anyone who has done anything with music, will know that it is insanely harsh. These penny pinchers will chase you to the ends of the earth to punish you for using their music in any sort of weird way. And there have been people, like, if it's fan fiction, okay, like, you're not making any money off of this fan fiction usually. So you can get away with, like, throwing out entire lyrics of songs into your fan fiction. But if you intend on selling or distributing copies of your work, you need to get permission from the copyright owners of that song to put in the lyrics. Otherwise,
or use
they can't.
songs that the copyrights have expired on,
Exactly.
and that's something you'll have to do research on to figure out which ones are okay to use.
hmm Yeah, because otherwise they'll sue you, or you have to share a portion of all of your profit with
Yeah.
that company. And so it's better, if you want to use a specific song, you mention the song by its name, if that's really, really what you want to do. And so that would be that would be the safest suggestion for those of you who are looking on actually, like, distributing your stories. If you're writing fan fiction, then
do what you want.
Do what you want. But as we've kind of discussed right here, depending on how you incorporate the music, it will probably work better for the audience. It will just flow better. There was a fan fiction that I once read, that this person tried to get, like, 6 different songs into the same scene, and it was for a barroom brawl. And I'm all good for, like imagining, like, let's say, for instance, like, someone slammed into the jukebox, and then
Ballroom Blitz starts playing.
Yeah, and Ballroom Blitz starts playing. That would be fantastic. I'd be like bouncing in my seat to in my head, playing Ballroom Blitz while reading this fight scene. But no, it went from, like, Barracuda to, like, what is it good for, and, like, it just kept changing, like, every paragraph, and I'm like, this doesn't flow well at all. No.
Yeah, that's one of those things where that's done better in a film
Exactly.
format
Yeah.
than
And that's one of the
written word.
things to keep in mind, is that in film you have a lot more, like, what's the word I'm looking for? You have a lot more stimulus in a film than you do with just a story. And so you have to keep that in mind. Like, this is not a movie that you're writing a book, and books have different vibes and different feelings. I want to address what Kylie said. Sorry, we kind of chatted for a while before addressing it, but she said, I often use the songs that are in my stories as forms of bonding for my characters. And I love that idea. Like, for example, with the story you were talking about, Camille, where she was, like, obsessed with the Beatles. And so that was, like, a defining character trait, And so, like, the music had a purpose in the story. And so that's great. Like, if there's a purpose for the music being in there, then, like, go for it. Like, go whole hog, as a matter of fact. But, like, if it's just like, oh, I want to put this song in because I've been listening to it a lot and I really like it, and so I want other people to listen to it now, that might not be the best reason to put it in. So
maybe a little forced shoehorn.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing I want to say as well is that it's here's one thing, like, when we're telling you about, like, using songs and everything, like, here's also something to think about. You don't always necessarily have to state what song is that's playing, at least in your mind, for this scene. So, like, for instance, I have one scene where I am absolutely having music from Princess Mononoke playing while this scene is unfolding, but I never say what it is.
Yeah.
It's but like for me, like I describe how the music flows, and like one character knows what the song is while the others don't. But so it's just like, I wrote it that way because for the other characters who are experiencing the song, and for anyone who's ever listened to the soundtrack from Princess Mononoke, it is a very magical, strange
It's
kind
incredible.
of soundtrack.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's good. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it definitely takes you someplace else. And so so I describe more how the characters are feeling while they are hearing this song, rather than so much describing the song itself. And so then let's say, for instance, in the future, if I end up like at a Comic-Con or something like that, and I'm famous and I get to share my books with people and whatnot, I could then drop that as like a fun little fact saying, hey, and on this page right here, the music that's playing is this and this song from Princess Mononoke, just in case any of you were like wondering. And it's like, people can then take it if they want to and then like listen to it while they read that, or they can just enjoy it for what it is and just say, no, it's alien music for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's another, like, I think that's another can of worms that we can crack into. Maybe not now, but like, I think listening, like, the goal isn't to have this song be what makes the atmosphere for the scene. You can use that song as like inspiration for atmosphere, but you should be able to write the atmosphere into that scene without the song at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And it's like, if you're not able to write that atmosphere, then and you're relying on the music to do that for you, then you need to keep working on it, is basically what I'll say. You know?
Use it as like a extra spice.
Yeah, your story should be able to stand on its own 2 feet without the use of that. And, you know, if you want to incorporate it some way, that could be a great way to kind of increase the engagement on it. It could be, and it could also be a humongous distraction. You know, I think that depends on the reader and the author. But yeah, I think at the very least, your story should be able to hit that atmosphere with or without the music.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think that we're kind of like nearing the end of what we can talk about with music right here. But one thing I do want to say, like, as you said, like, if you can use a music as inspiration for a scene, and when I think about that, I think about one of the albums from Two Steps from Hell, Battle Cry. It's my favorite album from Two Steps from Hell. And like when I listen to it, I feel like an entire story is being told to me, even though there is no story that's being told. It's just what I, as the listener, have conjured up in my mind. I mean, maybe the composer was thinking of a story while he was putting it together, but it's never told. So it's left up to the interpretation of the of the listener. And like, I have a story that one day I would like to write that's based on Battle Cry, right there. But it comes back to what Nate said. It's like I can't rely on like music such as like the songs of Battleborn, Star Sky, Flight of the Silver Bird to say, and this is what's playing as these Vikings are like sailing into the sunset.
Yeah.
No, I have to be able to bring that atmosphere of describing what it's like as these Vikings take to their longboat and sail into the sunset and into the unknowns beyond. Like, if I can't describe that without the song, then I'm not doing enough. Yeah. But like, it's totally fine to draw as much inspiration as you want from music.
Well, shall we move on to the next topic then?
Yeah. Let's move on. So our second topic was dealing with motivation and inspiration. I mean, they're kind of two separate things, but ultimately they kind of go hand in hand when it comes to writing.
Yeah.
And specifically, we were thinking about like when you are ready to write, like you have finally like made the time to write. You are like you feel like you're in the zone, or at least you finally have the time. You're done with school, you're done with work, you're done with whatever, and you sit down at your computer. You sit down with your pencil and paper, and nothing's coming to you. What do you do in that situation?
What I do in those situations is, so basically, oftentimes it comes down to just like my own like pre-perceived prejudice. So like thinking like, oh well, what if this scene like doesn't turn out the way I wanted to? What if, and at that point I just have to force myself to write. And that's kind of a nebulous thing to say, because oh well, how do you force yourself to write? And you just kind of have to start somewhere, if you need to.
I have forgotten how to fish. Sorry.
That fish is giving you some
I just
real
like the little the gird there. Camille's turned into her velociraptor. This is great. Give her fish.
Give me the fish, please. I'm trying to feed my family.
What was I saying? I was distracted by fish.
Nebulous.
Yeah.
You say that you force yourself to write.
Yeah, and so it's just like the way I always kind of force myself to write is like I go back either to a scene. Well, okay, and I think this could be dangerous because I think going back to what you've written can be debilitating, and so you have to be careful. Yeah. But because you could get so caught up with that, and then you don't want to write anymore, and yada yada yada. But
or you get distracted and you end up rereading things you've already written.
Yeah, exactly. That a lot. And so it's like, try writing a different scene. Try skipping the chapter. Write something that you're excited to write to at least get some words down on the page. Yeah. And sometimes you're just not feeling it, and that's fine. Yeah. I haven't written much of anything in the last like 2 months, but partially that's because I'm
busy as hell.
I've been busy as hell, yeah. And that's fine. Like, I don't have time to write, so I haven't been writing. Do I miss it? Absolutely. Do I want to write? Yes. As a matter of fact, I probably will do some writing tonight since I don't have school on Monday, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you're writing this for you. And so if you want to write, then you'll just have to force yourself. And if you don't want to write, then do something else, I think a mental break is good. One thing that I have found to be very, very helpful is having 2 stories. And I know we've talked about this on occasion. I think it's very important to have like one story that you're very focused on. But I think it's good to have a side story that you can kind of, plop some thoughts into, bounce some ideas into. Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of what I do when it's like I've hit a wall with this story and I have no idea like what to write. I'm not feeling motivated to write it. I'm not really sure what to do with this scene. And I'll just kind of, seize up in that moment. And so usually what helps me get past that moment is I go into my side story, like my side project instead of my main project. I go into my side project and and I'm like, oh, I remember what I was going to write here. And then I start writing. And then by the time I'm done writing whatever scene that I was working on there, there she is.
The girl.
Abigail. If you're just now joining us, we're doing a speed run of Abigail percent. Not really, but we are. We're trying to romance Abigail.
So elusive.
Get that pie.
She's elusive. Give her a puffer fish.
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah,
I gotta learn how to fish again.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at it.
Anyway, and so having that second story can help, like, kind of just shake things up, freshen things up. But I think, you have to be careful because you can totally get sucked into the second story. Which honestly might be fine, if that's something you want to do. Give him the stick.
Have this.
You should go give that to Sebastian, yeah.
Oh.
Alex looks.
You're right.
Thanks.
Alex looks
I don't
more.
know who Alex is. Well,
Alex, he's sad because you don't know him.
I don't, but he also got mad at me for digging through his trash. So.
Oh well, then
I found
Alex.
I found the stick in your trash. I'll give it to you.
It's a high quality stick.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to say about like dealing with motivation and creativity, I made a video a while back on YouTube about asking questions and how that helps to lead to creativity. Because I firmly believe that we all have some creative sense to us. A lot of what I mean, there's certain elements that hold us back from really pursuing our creativity. Self-confidence being one, knowing where to begin, so on and so forth. There's a lot of stuff, but one of the things is that if you take some time and ask yourself some questions, you might then find yourself finding that creativity and that motivation. So like, let's say you're sitting there at your story, and like, I agree with you, Nate, sometimes you need to take a break from what you're working on. But like, let's say you sit down and you're like, no, I just really, really want to work on this story. Where's the motivation? Start asking yourself some questions about your own story and see where that leads you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been one of the things that has kind of that's helped keep my project Whitefire alive for me, despite the fact that I haven't written stuff for it in months by now. But like, I have been asking questions about like, okay, so like let's say you find yourself in this particular situation. You have a dragoness, someone who's supposed to be the bridge between humans and dragons, coming up and talking to a dragon, and said dragon suddenly is just like, you know what, interesting human, let's have a battle of wits. And I could then ask myself, like, okay, well, like, what are some riddles that a dragon would ask? What are riddles like on this world? What's the punishment if this dragonist doesn't answer these riddles? How the heck would a dragonist be prepared for this? Because that's one of the things that dragonists are supposed to do. Dragonists are taught to basically be very adaptable to any situation in which they will encounter a dragon. So that means like, okay, so what kind of training then could a dragonist then receive to be like, this is what you do when a dragon starts acting funky? And so even if I'm not writing anything for the main plot, just simply asking some questions right here about Dragonist meets Dragon, then at least gives me some things to think about, stuff to then write down. And at the very least, I'm being creative. And maybe, just maybe, it will then give me a spark of inspiration and some motivation to maybe not hop right back to where I was before in the story, but maybe to write another scene or to write some world building or write some character development notes for my story overall. Asking questions, I believe, is the key to unlocking that hidden inspiration and creativity.
Yeah. And if you can't figure out what questions to ask, get a writing group or ask your writing group. If you don't have a writing group, you're probably getting tired of us saying this, but go talk to us on our Discord. Like, that's why we started it. And so, yeah, I think asking questions is such a great way to do it because it gets you thinking about it. It gets you, gets your mind kind of spinning. And even if you're not actually like writing, you're still working on your story. There's so many times that I like sit down to write and instead I spend, the entire time world building. And I think that's totally fine. I think as long as you're spending time thinking about it, like thinking about your story, it's going to progress.
Yeah.
It might not be. Yeah. It might not be like immediately in that moment. And, write down these ideas. Write down anything that you can think of like for your story because it just helps you keep it all straight because Oh my goodness. We can't tell you how many times we've lost ideas because we haven't written them down. And it is so infuriating.
Too many times.
Too many times. There's so many, and like, be thorough if you need to. There were so many like little notes in my notes app that I'm like, I don't know what this means. I know it had something to do with a story, but I don't know what watershed Vikings mean.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. I'm sure that there was something great attached to the words watershed Viking.
But you don't know what it is.
But I don't know what it is.
You know, a friend of mine actually recommended a notes app that connects the notes to, like, from your phone to your computer and vice versa, called Evernote.
Yeah.
So I haven't tried it out yet, but he really likes it. And
yeah, I've used Evernote before.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really awesome way to kind of help streamline things.
I mean, I still usually just use Google Keeps because I can just pull that up on my computer anyway, or if I need to, I just use OneNote because that's what I do all of my writing on. I'll write all of my books in OneNote. So.
That's so interesting. I use Google Drive.
I used to use Google Drive, but then Google Drive's like autocorrect was really bad, but now it's better. But I got so used to using OneNote that I just keep using it.
Bro, I just discovered how to eat things.
Munch.
I've been playing this game for days and I haven't eaten anything.
I was starving. Go in the mine.
Can you starve in this game?
I don't know.
What benefit does Marlon?
I don't know. Marlon. Is it like Animal Crossing where I can frigging yeet trees?
What?
I don't know. I've just been banned.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Down to this old mine pit. It's been banned for decades, but a dark place understood for so long. I'm afraid the ore isn't the only thing you'll find.
Ooh, let me go down.
Here, take this. You might need it.
Jimmy, time to come down.
Get a sword.
I said it as a joke. It's a rusty sword. Thanks, sir.
Even better.
Name's Marlon, by the way. I run the Adventurers Guild. I'll keep my eye on you. Prove yourself, and I might think you worthy of being a member.
I'll keep my eyes on you, boy.
For a guy with one eye, that is a little bit creepy. I'll keep my one
just
eye
in a cave. Just have my sword. It's a magical sword.
Oh, that's what they're calling it these days. So
for those of you who haven't listened to the best Zelda rap ever by Egoraptor and or Starbomb, I guess it is. That's a good time. Also very inappropriate, so fair warning.
Yeah, that's
here's the thing. I want the people who are right now watching to sound off. Sound off. Here's a question. Here's a creative question. Is a one-eyed person capable of winking at you, or are they just blinking?
Oh, sheesh.
I mean, if you say wink while you're doing it, I'm going to count that as a wink.
Wink. Yeah. Are you winking or just saying wink?
Wink. This is something that I honestly need to consider because Whitefire has only one eye. Because her other eye got gored out. So.
Well, I mean, you can still make those muscles, spasm isn't the right word. Move in a way that would be winking or similar to winking.
She doesn't wear an eye patch. She wears like a cool clothing over the scarred part of her face. So there's only one eye that's actually showing. So does that mean it's like, hey, wink.
Right.
Boy, I'm going to blink at you dramatically, and you're going to blush. Okay?
Wow!
Ah!
I don't want to die.
Well, was there anything else we wanted to talk about?
I don't think there's really anything else that came on up in any of our chats. I think we threw out the ideas on the Discord. There were some people who said that they really did want to hear about motivation, creativity, and music. So I believe that's
all?
everything.
Cool.
I even got to share a story. Ooh, actually, and since we began with sharing a story, allow me to share another quick story that will bring us full circle with dances and music and writing.
Oh, geez. I'm afraid now.
So I was once at a dance, and one of my long running fantasies was that to the song, "Oh, I want to dance with somebody." It's just like I just want to find like a random stranger, take her by the hand, and just start dancing with her to that song. And like I was in the middle of the dance floor. I was going to get a drink of water because I've been dancing my little heart out. And as I was walking along, the song suddenly came on, and sure enough, there was a girl right next to me who I knew did not have a dance partner, and I was just all like, "It was like, can a dance?" And it was epic. It was, and it happened right to the lyrics. And the lyrics of, "Oh, I want to dance with somebody." So yes,
I want to feel the heat
with somebody. Say, I'm just gonna say it can indeed happen, and that's one of those temptations of like, I want to write this, but to be all honest, it would probably still not translate very well to the written word. So
Yeah.
Well, I think in that instance, like if you made it a central part of your story, then I think it would work quite well. But it would have to be like well telegraphed long in advance, and it'd have to be an actual central part of your story.
Yeah, it would have to be something where, like, if I'm writing myself as the character, or if I'm writing another character, that character has to say, "I want to dance to Whitney Houston's," and like, and explain and say exactly how they want to have it happen. And then when that moment strikes, then they're ready to go. There's a couple of teen movies that have done that, and those scenes have always been really great because, as you said, Nate, they were telegraphed well ahead of time, so you knew what was coming, and it was good. But yeah, you can't just simply throw that in there and just be all like, "See, like it for what I've done."
Yeah.
Come here, you little bastard.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining us. As always, join us on our Discord if you want to keep the conversation going. If you're listening to this in the future, welcome to the past. It still sucks. And we'll still go join us on our Discord. Is that Amethyst?
Oh, bro, I don't know.
We gotta get it for our lady.
I don't know how to drop things in this game.
Gotta get some rocks for my honey, a baby for my buddy, a lady for my laddie.
Can I trade out?
You wanna take us home?
Country Road?
Yeah. That's a berm.
That's an amethyst, my dudes. My dudes.
Baby.
My lads.
One step closer.
We're there.
I gotta get out of this damn cave. How do I do this? Leave the mine. Oh.
Camille, you gotta say your catchphrase.
Oh. Okay. I'm gonna go. Romance my lady. Bye, Mom.
Yeah.